Welcome to the City of Eureka Springs. This is the BOZA and Planning Commission meeting. It is Tuesday, March 12th. 6 o'clock, we're in the auditorium. Tom, can we do a roll call, please?
Peter Graham.
Present.
Susan Hallman.
Here.
Susan Gruning.
She is absent with notice.
Ansley Lee.
Here.
Fergie Stewart.
Here.
I'm present. Tom Buford.
All right, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have public comments. I don't see anyone, so we'll say no. All right, we're going to go into our Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting. Can I get an approval of the agenda, please?
Make a motion to approve the agenda for the Board of Zoning Adjustment.
So second.
All right, so we've got a motion to approve the agenda, and we've got a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we've got no unfinished business, so do you want me to flip these?
Let me just make the announcement. So we're having issues with Zoom. The applicant for the zoning variance was supposed to join us via Zoom. If we're able to make a connection, we can do that. But yeah, let's go ahead and do.
Turn them?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's go ahead and do that.
Okay, so the first item that we've got on our agenda tonight is a tree cut application. This is for the Eureka Springs Historical Museum. They are seeking approval to remove 5 various sized and species trees that are threatening the historic structure. So if you want to come up and just state your name and who you are. And
Hello, I'm Jeff Danos. I'm here on behalf of the Historical Museum.
So hopefully all of you were able to read the information. There are tons of trees behind the Historical Museum. I talked to Jeff earlier today, and some of his concerns are, number one, roof was replaced or repaired a couple of years ago. There's a bunch of trees back there that are hanging over the roof. We talked about insurance, and we've gone through it with our property as well, where we've been dropped by insurance. But one of the things that they do require when they come out and do an inspection is that you don't have any limbs hanging over your roof, obviously, so that they don't damage the roof and the insurance company doesn't have to pay to have that fixed. So, and the trees that are up there that I looked at are really not safe trees because of the way that they have grown on that cliff.
Correct.
So the roots are out of the ground and could easily,
Right. They're already leaning, so
Right.
yeah, it's just a concern for us. I mean, we've got, like you said, there's lots and lots of trees behind the
Yeah.
museum. Theoretically, if many of those fell, they could hurt the building as
Right.
well. But these are the ones that are really of primary concern because, like I said, they are leaning towards the building and they're already hanging over the building. So yeah.
yeah.
And
So-
if I'm correct, Jeff, the cabin that used to be on the side of the structure was also damaged by a tree fall.
It was destroyed,
Destroyed,
by a
yeah,
tree.
so-
I mean, the tree took out the roof and the wall and pretty much made it so that we couldn't do anything with it. So,
Yeah.
this has happened to us before, and I mean, we had our prior insurance dropped us because we had too many claims of this nature, and so we're with a new insurance company, and we're hoping to not have to make another claim like that again to have the roof repaired. So,
Does anybody else have any questions for Jeff?
Did you pay for a tree permit?
I offered to. I wasn't sure.
If Jacob hasn't collected that from you, it has not been paid yet. I think he wanted to bring it here first.
Well, on the application, it said the tree permit is $20. I think that's incorrect. Is it not now?
For 5 trees, it's
Well,
$20?
I think it's $40 for a permit, I believe, under the new ordinance.
Yeah, I think you're
I
right.
believe the
We've been
form said
collecting
$20.
since November,
but yeah.
whenever that ordinance was passed, we kind of in the hole.
Yeah, I had the check in my hand. I was ready to hand it in with the application, and Kyle actually said to wait on the check. So,
Okay.
Is that something that we could verify, ask to be verified before?
Yeah, it's a 7.5604 B application accompanied by a fee of $40. Sorry, we haven't updated the application
Oh, okay.
yet.
Oh,
But yeah, that's the new tree ordinance.
Right.
okay, so are you saying we can change it on this here before it's signed?
Yeah.
Okay.
To make it a special condition.
Yeah, conditions, right.
Do we need to have a special condition, or can we just change it and can you initial it? What do you think?
Sorry, on the,
Fee.
Are you saying put a special condition on the price?
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
yeah, just reflect the
Right.
new ordinance.
All I'm asking is, on this paperwork here, can we change it to 40, and can you initial it, or do we have to make a special condition on the approval?
Since the ordinance requires it to be $40, I think we could just change and issue it, I believe.
right, yeah,
I mean,
that would make
that's
sense to me.
with the ordinance. I don't think we can waive the ordinance without.
Because that's a legal document, as long as it's initialed. Question is, who's initialing it? Is it you, Kyle, or is it both of us?
Yeah, this is my first experience with the new application. Yeah, I'm not sure.
We could do all three.
I say do all three, and
Yeah,
Okay.
Covered, yeah.
Okay, so does anybody else have any other questions?
No, knowing that property and knowing that they've already had a structure lost, these same trees are really all the same dynamic. They're all, endangering the building. I think we should move forward.
And knowing the location of the property, and if you were to look at, part of our pamphlets includes a picture of the backside of the building, and for those of you who might tune in at a later date, they're located up on a hillside that's a rock face, and they are drastically hanging over the top of the building. So I think it's important to address that they attached pictures, and looks as though that they are endangering to the building.
I make a motion that we approve the removal of the 5 trees at the Eureka Springs Historical Museum.
All right, we've got a motion.
And a second?
All right, we've got a motion and a second to go ahead and approve the 5 trees coming down at the,
95 South Main Street.
at 95 South Main, which is the Eureka Springs Historic Museum. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0.
Yep.
Are we signing this one too?
I just initialed that for $20 and changed it to 40.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kyle, do you want me to get you that check then for 20 or 40?
Do you have somebody already lined up to start? Do
Used to have the
you have a start?
To work?
Right.
Yeah, we already do, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Kyle, I have a question for you
I'll
before.
I'll get with you.
Okay.
Whenever's convenient for you.
Okay.
We'll work
Just
that
let
part
me
out.
know.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Appreciate it.
And Jeff, by the way, you're doing a great job at the museum.
Oh, thank you. I love the job, so that helps.
As far as I know, it only needed Jacob's signature and our approval, so.
Will you sing
Yeah,
your
yeah.
signature there?
Yeah,
Just so it's changed.
All right.
Okay. Here's your paper.
Thank you.
Okay, it does not look like we've got a connection for our other applicant.
I think that we can go ahead and start it. We'll attempt to answer any questions that you may have. If we do decide to delay a decision, that's okay also.
Okay,
Has anyone opposed this that received notification?
I have not received any opposition, no.
Okay.
okay. All right, so let's move to the second item, which is the zoning variance application. This is, last name of the owner is Wilmot. They're seeking a variance on Lot 13, Block 45 of the Riley Armstrong survey from 10,000 square foot minimum lot size for R2 contemporary residential zoning for a new residential construction on approximately 3,200 square feet lot size originally platted in the Riley Armstrong survey. I don't know how many of you were able to go and look at it. I went and looked at it today, and I do have some questions. So do you have some questions?
Yep, well, yeah, I've got questions, yeah.
Okay, so it looks like just to verify, Kyle, it looks like they're trying to build a 1,200 square foot building on a 3,200 square foot lot. This kind of goes back to we had this conversation before about doing the FAR, the floor area ratio. Almost all of those lots in there are teeny tiny, and it's not the only area in town. This just happens to be the latest one. So the question I have is, when I went there, Anderson is on the front side of that lot. Step is around the corner. There's a lane that goes behind. Do you know how they're planning on accessing that property once it is built?
He is hoping to get a Dickey Street address, which is I think, eastern side.
Is that the one behind it then? Is that Dickey?
Yes.
Instead of Step?
So Step, let me see.
So Step is just a short one, and then Dickey is the one that's kind of the dirt lane behind it?
Yeah, so Dickey runs parallel to Anderson.
Okay.
And then Step, yeah.
I was thinking that was
comes
still
off
Step.
Anderson.
There's not much it's not much of a road.
Right, yeah.
Regardless. Okay, so that's where the access is going to be, is back there on Dickey.
Yeah, they're going to ask for a Dickey Street address, yes.
Okay. The only other question I had is, it looks like along the one side, if you look at the diagram,
Yeah.
there's not much room on the one side of that diagram.
Are you referring to the one that runs into Anderson Street? Is that corner?
Yeah, it's like that corner.
section?
Yeah, there's not much room there at all. So
I think it's even crossing over into the Anderson Street, right? Isn't that what it's showing on the image? Is that correct?
I don't know how it could.
So after that was plotted, Anderson Street came through and went through that corner right there. So he is going to get with the city clerk to figure out what that property line is exactly.
Okay. And go ahead. Do you have another question about it?
No.
Okay, being out there at that property today, we know there's going to be a ton of trees that have to be cut down because it's covered in trees.
Yeah.
So I think because all of that growth is going to be gone, I mean, honestly, there probably needs to be some sort of retaining wall set up on the Anderson side. It flattens out back there towards Dickey, but it's a cutoff. I mean, you take all those trees out, there's not going to be anything to stop that from eroding.
There was a mention, I think, somewhere about they couldn't buy the adjoining lots because the city owned them. Do we know if they actually made an offer to the city to buy the lots, to join that property?
12 and 14, these two, the 12
see
and
the
the
property?
14. Yeah, I thought the same thing.
I mean,
Yeah, I would love to see it.
I do. I have a video. I took a video out there today.
Yeah, I was just saying, there's a lot of
It
issues.
seems like there's a lot of
for
conditions
sure.
without even being able to speak with them.
Let's see if I can get my video.
Yeah, given also that sewer line, we may need to get.
Well, that's across the
somebody
street.
from
This is-
Public Works to come in here and give us a,
well, yeah. Yeah, I saw the sewer line across the street, but I saw something sticking out of the ground back there, but it wasn't right on the property. A little-
yeah, I know, I'm wondering what's under the
white
ground there.
plastic.
I was wondering I'm just worried about, there may be something that you can't see that may be there, that we need to have Public Works take a look at this. So, Mike, given that we don't have them on, I move that we defer this application till the next meeting.
How many days do we have for deferment in order to, is it 60 days
45?
or 45 days?
I would have to double check.
I think
Okay,
if we
so-
don't do something at 45, it's automatic or something.
Yeah.
or another.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't do anything, it will automatically happen.
And they have a real estate sign, just, the people don't have a realtor that could come to the meeting and talk for them?
I can't remember who it was. Did you see it? Yeah. So, I mean, those are just some of the questions I had.
Right.
If they're going to use Dickey Street for the drive, then that'll help. But once they take all those trees down, I mean, there's going to be
Movement, yeah.
there'll be some erosion in there. So,
Well, won't Jacob have to oversee that?
Yeah, it'll definitely have to meet building code and all of that.
Okay.
Have to go through HDC.
I know before we've put conditions on properties. So maybe even if we put a condition on it, even though he would probably do it anyway, at least it's out there. I don't know.
Well, I hate to put conditions on there when we're not really sure what they're doing. I mean, we need, be kind of precise on our conditions.
Yeah, but it's not us to decide the sewer.
Right.
You know, that's going to be Public Works and the
That's
water, and
Building.
they're just asking for the variance.
I guess really just asking for a zoning variance, right? So I guess we're looking ahead, but
I mean, it doesn't look like there's anything else on either side of that, of them. Doesn't mean there won't be one day.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, I'm okay with postponing it as long as we don't run over
yeah, I think just,
the allotted
So we
time
get-
that we can.
So I had a question for Kyle. When we were talking about that he was going to go to discuss, the owner was going to go and discuss like the property lines with the street, is it more common that that happens before something is brought to zoning and planning? Because would our approval of something like this push that along or cause conflict if then they come back and say, well, it's actually an issue with the property lines and property stakes?
And I don't even know if they've closed yet because the sign out there today said sale pending.
The way I understand it is it's conditional to the sale.
Okay. So that's too bad we weren't able to get them on Zoom.
yeah.
So just a heads up, with it being a time-sensitive thing, if I'm able to set that up with him, I will probably call a special meeting.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, special meeting, sure.
Okay, so since we can't go any further today, does anyone want to make a motion that we postpone?
Yeah, I make a motion that we postpone this application till either a special meeting or our next scheduled meeting.
I second that.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to postpone the zoning variance application by Wilmot, who is a potential owner seeking a variance on Lot 13, Block 45 of the Riley Armstrong survey. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, that ends our Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting. Can I get someone to close our meeting?
I make a motion that we close the Board of Adjustment meeting.
I second that.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to close the Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're going to move into Planning Commission. And then Kyle, you'll let us know about that owner, right? Or that property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to move into the Planning Commission meeting. Can I get an approval of the agenda, or does anyone need any changes?
I have two changes.
Okay.
Number one, the approval of minutes. The minutes I put in your packet are HDC minutes. Sorry about that. The minutes I have handed out at the table are the February 13th minutes for your approval. And then Jacob was going to join us via Zoom, so we're going to have to ask him to come back again as well.
Okay.
Okay, so do you all need a few minutes to look at the minutes? And then the only other thing I had was Ann had asked me under number 4, the B&B workshop discussion, that we could discuss some code. Are you still wanting to do that, Ann?
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right, so it's just going to be kind of a workshop code discussion as opposed to just the workshop discussion. Anything else? Can I get an approval of the amended?
I make
Agenda.
a motion that we approve the amended agenda for the Planning Commission.
I second that.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to approve the amended agenda for the Planning Commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so Kyle gave us the new minutes. Does anybody need time to look at it real quick?
I wasn't present, so.
You weren't here. Yeah.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got one that's going to not vote.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes stay as of February 13th.
I second that.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to approve the February 13th meeting minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're not doing number 2. So let's go into conditional use permits. Ida.
Yeah.
And this was something that was requested last meeting of Kyle to, you all saw the letter that he sent out to all the department heads that we need to have involved in this. So Ida's here just to kind of go through her portion and what she has done today.
Let me pull up my notes. Sorry, my laptop's not connecting.
Same problem we have with Zoom. Solar flare or something, I don't know. Or too much metal up there.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to do it on my phone. And it's not working well for me.
Will that paper that we had in our meeting packet help you?
I got it. Yes, actually.
Oh,
That would
okay.
be fantastic.
Let's see.
Thank you so much. I apologize. Internet's not working. Great. Okay, so on this, I just wanted to talk about, because I think there's just been, I know last year when we were talking about B&Bs, I pulled the B&Bs and the short-term rentals that were licensed, made a list, color-coded what they were zoned, and then went through and made sure each one was listed as CUP or legal nonconforming if it was in a residential zone. So I did that audit last year, and then I just updated those lists with Kyle. He's going to go through and actually put on the lists that I gave him. I did a little slightly different format. I have a shared sheet with him that is downloaded to a drive, so both him and I can make edits to it, so it's just a running list. I'm not having to re-email things. He's going to go through and get the name on the CUPs and the units specifically, make sure those are all up to date on there, because we do have some previous lists, but we just want to make sure everything was done correctly. So we're going back through and doing that, and then putting the number of units if it's legal non-conforming. So that should solve a lot of the concerns on the business licensing portion of it. As far as, and I think I actually discussed that in last year's bed breakfast discussion, but we slept since then. It's been a minute. So when someone comes to me for any sort of lodging in a residential zone, I always look at zoning. If I have any question at all, I go to Kyle, and we talk it through. We pull out the folder. I make sure I'm doing everything correct according to code, because unless I'm absolutely sure, I'm not going to do anything without at least a second pair of eyes on it. So that's first things first. They have to take care of things with you before they can apply for their business license. So that will not be an issue in the future. They also are required to get their certificate of occupancy. In order to get their certificate of occupancy, it has to be inspected by the building inspector and the fire marshal. They bring that occupancy in with their invoice, and they get their business license, and they pay that all together. So that it's either attached to the business license application. It's always attached to the business license application, and then I scan it in to my system. That way, if I ever need to search it, it's a little easier than pilfering through some paper files. So that's another update that I've done. And then I am getting that list to CAPC. They received a list right before I got into office, before that last business licensing cycle, and I'm working on getting an updated list. I just wanted to make sure, I wanted to clean it up a little bit and get it in a format that I better understood. And then from then on, I might be getting some assistance soon. So I'll be going through the BSNA system and actually inputting all the current information. So like if they have a emergency contact that's changed down the line, or they have a different phone number, that's all going to be updated in the actual system. That way I can pull a report. I'm not manually having to make lists in Excel or a sheet. So that's another project that I am currently working on and is getting done. So once the CAPC gets that list, they're going to look through and cross-reference it with their tax permits and see who's permitted and who is not, and take care of that on their side. And then I've been working with Danielle mostly. She's been really awesome since she started working with me. And so we will start, I'll start sending her a month-end list of these are the new businesses that have opened up. Make sure that they've gotten their tax permit with them, because they have to have their licensure before they can obtain their tax permit.
So you'll do that when you get a new one, and then you'll do it yearly on existing.
Yeah, so I'm going to pool, because the system's pretty good. As long as we get the information and I got the reporting, it just took me a minute to figure out how to pull the correct report, because previously clerk did not have access to that system. It was all inputted through the finance department. So it wasn't really a system that was made to benefit the office. So now I've started making it kind of my own program. So those will be pulled at the end of each month, and I'll just shoot a list over to them.
So if they respond back to you and say that someone they have no record that that particular property has paid, say, CAPC taxes, what are the steps that you take then?
So that would be up to the CAPC Commission. They have ways in code, in their laws, to enforce that. There's actually a whole structure in city code on enforcing that. And I've offered in the past, if they want to issue me a notice, they're in violation so many months, send me a written notice. I can then notify them that their business licensure is pulled, or they're at risk of having their business licensure pulled. They can, but really they have the power to pull their whole tax permit, or fine them for not being permitted. So it's really just going to be the departments working with code enforcement, PD, figuring out how to get those citations out.
Yeah, as long as you have a system, you know, because like I said, the existing ones, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily touch them all the time unless it was a brand new one. But because of the 180-day rule, they need to be aware of that. But if they're communicating with you that they have somebody, then at least you can do what you need to do on your side.
Yeah, we've started opening up communication
That's good.
there. Like I said, Danielle has been fantastic, and we both want to, because it's beneficial, you know, the commission really does want those revenues, you know, and it's in their best interest to start enforcing it. I just don't think there was a clarified system, just
Right.
because it is, the commission is its own entity. So it's a matter of just clear communication.
Okay, so then when we have somebody who sells a property, Ann had mentioned this in the workshop, how do you know, or how would we know whether or not that they were current on their taxes? So what is the process when an application comes in to transfer, say, a CUP? Kyle, I know it's going to have to start with you because that's where the application comes, right? So are you giving it to Ida and then Ida's communicating with CAPC, or are you the one that's directing both of those conversations?
So I have not done a transfer since I've been back. The new system, previously I had just been asking CAPC director if this property is current on their CAP taxes, and then he's told me yes or no. Yeah, setting up this new system with Ida, I haven't had anybody ask for a transfer yet, but I think having all that information in one database will be super helpful. And then also too, I just want to make you aware, related to conditional use permits, not specifically bed and breakfast, but other conditional use permits in the city, we've been running into issues of people operating without the required permits. And they're not ones that have just forgot or not sure of what the procedures are. They're operating illegally, intentionally. And so I had brought this up at department heads meetings. I do have an inquiry into the city attorney, especially for life and safety reasons with code enforcement and the fire marshal. We're looking at setting up utilities turn off, some kind of system that we don't have to do the 30-day notice for not being compliant. We can show them that you're operating illegally, you need to cease and desist now. If you do not, we will come turn off your utilities. So I'm waiting to get some clarification from the city attorney on that, but it seems there are other communities in the state that operate that way.
Right, yeah, Fayetteville does that currently, so.
So what you all are doing is establishing guidelines and procedures.
Right.
So that 10 years from now, somebody sitting at planning isn't having the same conversation because somebody didn't realize that there were procedures and guidelines out there. Is that something that the process, we know the process that we would like to see happen because we want to make sure that people are up to date on their taxes. We want to make sure that their license is current. We want to, all of these things that make up that allows that property to have a CUP. We want to make sure that everything is there in place. And then also, if a property gets transferred, to make sure that it was done correctly. Is that something that planning can request an ordinance, or is that something that you do on your side so that it's a permanent procedure?
So it seems to me that all of these solutions are already in code.
Okay.
And it falls to the different departments. It seems like there has not been a lot of interdepartmental communication regarding the status of those different requirements that they have to follow. And so mine and Ida's goal is to bring all that information together and utilize what's already in code to enforce that.
Okay, so then if that is the case, and I'm only talking for myself, it'd be wonderful if we had that in our book so that the next group will know this is exactly how it's supposed to work. Yes, Ann?
Well, I was going to say that's part of, I did find it after reading the book on page 423, when we're talking about grandfathers, it specifically says non-payment of taxes for 180 days. There's nothing in our code book that talks about non-payment on CUPs. So that's one of the recommendations I'm making for a code change. And the other one I'm making is that prior to any transfer of CUP or illegal non-conforming property, documentation shall be required from the CAPC that all tax payments from the current property owner are paid and up to date.
So you're going to ask for that as a code change?
I think we have to, because
It has to be there.
if we pull somebody in
Yeah.
for a CUP that has not paid taxes,
Right.
there's no place in here
Right,
that says if you haven't paid your taxes for 180 days, we can pull your CUP.
yeah, that's kind of why I was asking about the guideline, the procedure. Is it a legally binding procedure, or is it just FYI, this is the process that we do because we have everything in code?
So IDA has set up with Municode. So we're going to start getting updates of our city code every 6 months.
Do you know how far back we are? Like, when was the last update done in Municode? It's been a while, because I've tried to find some things.
No, it's not been a while. The last recoding was done in August before I took office, so August.
Oh, okay. So it's usually what, maybe every 6 months then?
Usually usually it was done once a year. And now I got into the same company because we got a discount with the website. They're going to go ahead and do the republication and the supplementations and everything. And what comes with the basic plan is an every 6 month update.
Okay.
So that's what's going to be happening. I had to, right now, the delay's been, basically they sent me, there's an error here, there's things missing here, and I've been going back and getting it to them. So I think there's only one more thing that needed to be fixed, and I found it today. So I'm going to send that in. And they said as soon as I send it in, it's pretty much just a couple days, and they edit it, and then I'll just need to bring it to council for adoption. But
Okay.
it'll be updated on the website, and then I'll get the physical code books for my office. It comes with 3 code books, but I have to keep those 3 in my office. And then they'll send me a PDF file so I can send it to you guys as a file where you can look at the muni code, or Kyle can print those out for you, the planning and zoning portion.
Okay. So
They have a
Ann,
physical copy.
do you want to work on, do you think it's only in one location in code that needs to be?
Oh, no, I've started the list.
Okay, all right. I didn't know if you did.
And
That's why I was
and that's
just,
what I'm going to pass out, because and then, of course, after our workshop, there's a couple more things.
yeah.
Because you said that we're going to take this, that the council just wants us to bring it all at one time.
That's what they originally said. They'd rather have
So
it
that's my goal.
in kind of one fell swoop
Yeah.
instead of,
So what are the code issues that you currently have?
For revocation of a conditional use permit, the city may revoke a conditional use permit for violation of any condition of the permit, including non-payment of the CAP taxes for 180 days. Prior to transfer of a CUP, I just said, legal non-conforming, all the taxes, we have to know they're paid. I want to add the, per Arkansas Department of Health, bed and breakfast is an establishment offering originally here.
they have to be inspected.
Offering lodging and breakfast, which must comply with this rule if it's a retail food establishment. So the bed and breakfasts that have 6 or more sleeping rooms or sleep at least and/or 10 people must be inspected by the health department, their kitchens.
So who's going to check that?
That would be Jacob.
Okay.
And I think also my recommendation is going to be, I don't know how often they do this.
They kind of just show up, but for
But-
us, it's usually every 6 months.
I don't know if we provide that list to the health department.
They have not requested a list from me.
You know, you can go on their site, like, you could go on the site and see what our last inspection showed. So I don't know if you can go on there and look by city and see who they have listed currently. That might be helpful if
And
you
I'll
could do
call and
that.
find out how often those inspections take place.
Like I said, they just kind of show up, and so it's,
But it's up to them. I mean, I don't think, you don't call them to say.
oh, no, they just show
But they have
up.
to have the list of who they're supposed to come and inspect.
So my only concern with that is I was setting up these processes to where it's, they have to get their inspection, all that we're following, so, and then they also have to have your CUP, there's steps they need to follow, there's some, I'm sending the list, so it's gonna get double checked. If we keep putting these qualifications, you're gonna cause more administrative work, right? Because they're gonna come in and I already have a problem with, they throw an application at me and say, here's that, or they email an application or they mail me an application. And I'm like, whoa, you need this, this, and this. I can accept that application, or they'll put it in a Dropbox with money in an application. And I'm like, whoa, I can't take, so it's gonna get to the point where I am a one-person department. You're gonna get to where this is the health department's responsibility
But
already.
it's state law.
I understand, but it is the Department of Health's
Right,
responsibility. So if could you let me finish real quick? So if they want to enforce these things, they can do an audit. They can request me for those things. But the thing is it's going to get to the point where I am a one-person department. There's minutes, there's fireman pension board, there's business licensures, there's a whole list of things that I'm doing in my office, and if we're adding qualification over qualification, that is really that is the responsibility of the Department of Health. That is the responsibility of the CAPC Commission. That would be something that that's what they're really required to do, and putting that responsibility on me because they aren't doing their due diligence, I think is going to become very cumbersome, and it's going to become a slippery slope where all of these things are already required of them and they should be doing this. And if they're not, why aren't these agencies stepping in?
And were you asking Ida to monitor that? Or were you, no, I think she was just saying we need to put it clearly in our ordinances.
In our ordinance.
Gotcha.
Because
Yeah.
there's not that many
Gotcha.
that have over 6 bedrooms or sleep more than 10 people. And
Right.
if the health department is responsible for doing the audits,
Yeah.
I just want to know, how do they get the names of these businesses? That has nothing to do
I was-
with you and
Okay.
really doesn't have anything, I think it falls on the owner of the business.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
That's what I'm
I'm
just
not-
trying to say, is if
No.
I'm requiring more things for this business license,
No.
eventually I'm going to be
No.
like,
Yeah.
all
I think
right.
when you asked her what else she had on her list, that was just one of the items she
Yeah,
had on
yeah,
her list, so.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
I was more addressing your statement where it's like, do you want to go on their website and see who's been inspected and cross-reference it? I would love the time and energy to do that. It's just, there is only so many hours in a day
No.
and only me.
I'm not implying that we're adding anything
Okay.
to your plate.
Okay, so
Yeah,
if she has a process, if you have a process, I mean, it sounds like the bulk of it is probably, you get the application and then you just kind of go from there. But then the yearly or the every 6 month, so it's a yearly and a 6-month review, sounds like, right? Unless you're getting a new license.
Well,
Because your
doesn't-
180 days would be 6 months.
But doesn't the CAPC in their system, if someone is not paying taxes,
They've got 30 days.
then that's up to the CAPC.
And they'll show
And if-
them on a delinquent
if we-
list.
If we give the CAPC a list of our CUPs and not legal non-conforming, maybe they can flag those, that if they don't get payment, then they contact Kyle and say, we haven't gotten payment. My concern right now is, does the CAPC, and I know that we've had a change in leadership of CAPC, do they truly know who they're supposed to be collecting taxes from? That is my big question.
Yep.
And it's going to take a while to fix it, I know that.
Yeah.
And I know that Ida has started, when people get their license or
Right.
whatever, these are the things you need to do, she sends them over there. But I know there's still some out there that have not paid taxes, that need to pay taxes.
Right.
And I think it's in code. And if it's in code, then when we find out, then we have something to work with. But if we pulled somebody in for a CUP that hasn't paid taxes and tried to pull that CUP, we'd be in trouble because it's nowhere in our code.
Actually, that is in code. I will find the citation for you, but I'm pretty sure that's already in code. I don't know I think it's in the CAPC code itself, not
Okay.
in the zoning code.
I can look at the code.
But I will look, I remember when looking through all of this, and a condition of it does state in code for conditional use permits and their business license that they have to follow all ordinances, codes, state laws, and if not, at the very least, you can have your business license revoked.
Maybe that's something we should consider putting on the application. Do they get a copy of, when we approve their CUPC, Kyle, and they sign on that, do they get a copy of that?
I have not given anybody a copy of that, no.
I know that you had told us earlier that Ida was putting together a list of things that they needed to do, and we were just talking about having the same paperwork that you use, or the same list or whatever, so that there's more than one time that they see the same information. You know,
Yeah.
especially like if we're giving them a CUP, these are the things that I mean, obviously they'll already have their certificate of occupancy, right? But from this table, they're going to go and do their CAPC tax, and they're also going to go get their license, right? So if we're handing that to them, and she's handing the same list, and they're saying, okay, I've done this one, this one, this one, this one, I still have these to go, then at least it's more than one time that they're being notified.
I'll get with you before we,
Yeah, if you just want to forward me those changes, I could trust me, how much time I've spent on this code. I can probably, if it's in there, I can probably at least vaguely remember it's in there and find it. I've taken a lot of classes to try to figure this out and try to get it into a format that's more user-friendly, especially on the website side. So I can definitely take a look at those and let you know this is already addressed, or maybe this is how we should word this, or this is where this fits, or
That's
whatever.
perfect, 'cause it's
If
gonna
that works for you.
Yeah, it does, because it's going to take a couple more months these conversations to kind of finalize this, but.
Is the CAPC ordinances or bylaws or whatever they call them, are they on Municode too?
They are. They're all in the Code of Ordinances. So when you.
Just search by,
Yeah, you can, so it is under, let me find the title real quick.
I know I've read it before, maybe not since they've been updated, but I have found it before.
It's in Title II,
Okay.
which is, it's a big one.
But it's all,
And it's pages long.
yeah.
There is a whole code on that. And when you're looking at what the current rules are, you always want to refer to the Code of Ordinances, to the actual city code, because that is a compilation of all the current ordinances. If you pull a single ordinance, you're going to run into the issue of, well, it was amended down the line here and here and here. You're not getting a full picture of what the actual code is. You're getting individual legislation. And it honestly, it doesn't matter what's in that ordinance. The code has been adopted by the city council. Those are the rules of the city. So that's when you're wanting to reference something or look at something, always go to the code book, because that's going to give you a bigger picture than a single ordinance will.
Does anybody else have any questions for Ida? or
Thank you,
anything?
Ida.
No, the only thing I want to comment for you guys is that, the new city website really, and I was talking to Michael, I wasn't sure how well it was going to work, but I've been impressed with it. So I have to eat my words a little bit. I was sure it was going to crash. But anyway, but one thing you can do on the Code of Ordinances, you can actually search all the PDFs by word, and you can actually kind of narrow down exactly, if you're looking at a particular code in Word in there, you can actually pull all inferences of that word. So it's kind of nice. I pulled up sidewalk, I got 125 hits on the word sidewalk in our code. Anyway, I just let you know that use the new city website. It's really more than we've ever had since I've lived here. So it's good. It's good stuff.
Anybody else have anything for this topic?
And the CAPC taxes, it's on page 36 of the code book.
36?
And, yeah, it is.
Okay.
Of my code book, or what code book?
The city.
It'll
Probably
be
the
the current, I would look at the one on the website on
Okay.
Unicode.
Okay.
That's going to be the most current version, and it is going to be, 35. That is 2.60.06, 35 and 36.
Okay.
In case of the sale, any business which is subject to AMP tax, the AMP tax shall be deemed to be due and payable at the time of the sale and of fixtures and equipment incident to business, and shall constitute a lien against the said fixtures and equipment and inventory in the hands of the purchaser of the business until all AMP taxes have been paid.
Perfect.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Ida.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
All right.
If you have any questions, you are welcome to email me.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go to B&B workshop
Yeah,
discussion.
we obviously have some changes to make. I'm just passing around something for you to take home and look at. Proposed changes, I'm going to add some more before the next workshop.
Oh, okay. There we go.
I totally agree with code enforcement. I mean, we can't make this labor intensive. So I think we've got to figure out, are we going to monitor CAPC taxes? Wait until we get complaints from the neighbors?
Right. Yeah.
It was a mess last year when Kyle and I were trying to look at these B&Bs. The websites, a lot of them don't give much information. We have to decide, do we say you're a bed and breakfast on all social media outlets, you put your bed and breakfast? I mean, we're always going to have some that don't do it.
But
But
If
do
it's
we
not
want to
there-
make it a big deal? That's the
Right.
question.
Yeah.
So just something to think about. That's it for me.
Okay, so we'll have another workshop at 5 o'clock prior to our April meeting on B&Bs
Right.
again. And, maybe we'll get some more people from
Was
the
this advertised on
neighborhoods.
was this put on the website?
I thought it was, but I was just informed tonight that no, it was not.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, maybe we can get it on the next one and then
I will ensure that it's on the
get some
next
more
one.
people.
Yes.
Anybody else have anything else on?
Yeah, I think maybe,
Workshop?
as we're done, inviting Scott from the CAPC to our next workshop,
Is it Scott or is it
Scott.
Mike?
Scott, isn't it?
No, Mike.
Okay, I know they've changed hats over there, so whoever the person, I guess.
Are you wanting to invite?
You don't want to invite?
I don't see the reason to.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, I was surprised that they weren't enforcing their own rules, and then they found out, oh, here's these we missed, and I was just flabbergasted when we found out that there was these ones aren't paying, and then they go, oh yeah, we knew this, we just didn't tell anybody, and I was like, that's just crazy to me. I
think we have a different relationship now.
Okay, yeah,
I would hope that we do.
yeah. Okay.
All right, let's go to sidewalk discussion. So I put this on the agenda because several months ago, an email was sent asking us to look at why, well, a comment was made that apparently there was a subdivision put in and we didn't, or
Oh, the
planning
new
didn't.
subdivision, right.
A new
Yep.
subdivision was put in.
Rock Roads.
While we're on sidewalks,
Pine
that
Crest.
the subdivision wasn't required to put sidewalks in. So I went through code and I went through applications. And what I came up with is, you've got
Yeah.
some of these in or you've got most of this in your packet. There are applications, there is code. At the very least, if you read through all of the code, and I know Kyle and I did this, it is very clear where sidewalks are supposed to be in code. What types of sidewalks in the historic district and what types of sidewalks in non-historic districts. Based on what we read, which you can read through all of it in your packet, it is very clear that sidewalks are required. In our book, under subdivisions, there is a section that does say that we're allowed to request sidewalks. But it says the planning, this is on page 8 of, I don't know which one I'm looking at, but it's under C, under improvements. It says, Planning Commission is hereby authorized to require the subdivider to furnish and pay for public sidewalks, public curbing along the sides of any street, and/or public guttering along the sides of any street, and to cause any such requirement to be a condition for approval of the proposed subdivision. It's not on, how should I say this? I think it needs to be clear within our application, and I think it needs to be clear within the ordinance. At the very least, it says that we can ask for them in the ordinance. So after Kyle and I talked, his suggestion, or I guess we kind of came to a consensus, that it makes more sense for it to be on the application. The application is what we're going to see at this table.
Right.
The application is going to be probably what is filed in that folder for that particular property. So the one I'm looking at right now, I think is I don't know which one this is. But anyway, it says, they all say like location and dimensions of proposed streets. I think it should say location and dimensions of proposed streets and sidewalks.
Right.
So we should add those words on those applications where they should be so that it isn't forgotten by the Planning Commission,
Right.
because it probably won't be us in 20 years.
I'm curious, though, why do we have to have sidewalks? I mean, especially now that you own your own sidewalk. People aren't going to want to do sidewalks.
When it's a subdivision, we have every right to ask for a sidewalk.
But shouldn't that be up to the people that live there?
Well, the developer's.
But a
gonna put it in.
developer, it's a developer. So these are new subdivisions,
Right.
right? So those lots aren't sold when
But
a
those
developer comes in.
sidewalks are not going to belong to the developer. They're going to belong to the homeowner.
No.
Right, but I mean, typically, if you see a subdivision go in, at least the ones I've always lived in, the developer was required to put a sidewalk in. So we're able to do that. All I'm saying is, why isn't it on the application? So
Probably
we can
'cause we
give a
got that from
variance.
some other town.
Right, and there are variances here for street easement lots and blocks. It says, variance requested for street width, variance requested for street service, for easements, whatever. We can put a thing on there that says variance for sidewalk too. I just think if the comment was made that we didn't ask for sidewalks, shame on you planning, because you didn't ask for sidewalks on a subdivision that went in. Is it because it's not obvious on the application? I mean, it won't hurt to have it on
No,
the application.
I agree. I just don't think it should be a mandatory thing. I mean, I don't have
that
a
would be a
sidewalk
vote
in
of the
front my
planning
house,
commission.
And I'm thrilled that I don't have a sidewalk in front of my house.
Right, but that would be a vote of the planning commission, whoever was sitting there, whether or not they had a consensus as to whether or not they required it.
Yeah.
The ordinance allows us to ask for sidewalks.
Right.
So the vote would be, are we giving a variance? Are we requesting it? Are we leaving the
So we
variance
would have
there?
to change the ordinance.
No, I don't think you do.
So underneath sidewalks, 9.0801 purpose, it is the best interest of the city to require the installation of sidewalks along both sides of the street in the city where such installation is deemed necessary and appropriate. The primary purpose of such installation shall be to provide for pedestrian safety, provide for Americans with Disabilities Act, pedestrian access, and to provide continuity with pre-existing sidewalks.
So the city's position, according to the ordinance, is that we should have sidewalks. Our application doesn't mention anything about sidewalks.
Yeah.
If we want to put the category on there that there's a variance for sidewalks, we could do that, and we could still vote on it. It isn't I guess if you read it, when I read it through a couple times, it's not saying that, there's still some wiggle room in it, I think,
Right.
according to the ordinance,
Yeah.
a little bit.
But
Yeah,
in
but-
the 8 years I've been here, we've only had one subdivision come before
I
us.
know, we may not
did.
have
My
that many.
subdivision doesn't have any sidewalks. My whole subdivision over there at Pines
Yeah.
has no sidewalks anymore.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is you bring up what he said about the ADA compliant and the right, basically, and that's a problem because everybody's ending up in the street. So
Right.
then we end up putting hazard codes for little kids so they don't get run over because people aren't doing the 15 miles an hour. But if we had the sidewalks, they would be on the sidewalk, but they're not. They're having to walk down the middle of the street,
Well,
so.
I asked the developer of the one up at Pinecrest why he didn't put sidewalks in, and he said, well, utilities take 25 to 30 feet, off the front. But he loses, the lot owner after you can't build in that 25 or 30 feet. And he said in his subdivision, it ties into Pivot Rock. Pivot Rock has no sidewalks. So he said, well, why would I spend
Right.
$50,000 putting sidewalks in? My subdivision it's a dead end, it's a cul-de-sac, so it doesn't have much traffic. And said, I'm already have people complain because they've got to move so far back from the curb to build their house, which pushes them further down the hill with more fill because, it's a ridge like a lot of developed lots around here are. And that was why he didn't put one in.
But don't you think that our applications should, I mean, if you read the ordinances, it reads as if the city wants sidewalks.
Right.
But our application doesn't say anything about sidewalks.
Right.
If we put in there not we, whoever is voting on a subdivision, that they have the option to ask for a variance,
Right.
then it's the vote of the commission that decides whether or not there are sidewalks or there aren't. All I'm saying is that none of these applications say
Yes.
anything
Right.
about
Yeah.
sidewalks.
Right.
And if I were coming into planning and not having had this discussion about sidewalks, I wouldn't even know that I mean, certainly I should have done my homework and read that I have the opportunity to ask, but I just think it needs to be clear within our application that we have the right to ask for it. It's in the ordinance.
Yeah.
And why isn't it mentioned on our application? The other one that I put in here, so there's PUDs, there's subdivision, and the other one I put in there was commercial. The reason I put in commercial is because the little handout that I gave you from Strong Towns, it says in there that we are trying to make sure that we have sidewalks that are accessible to people walking in high traffic, basically high traffic areas. So Highway 62, if there's a lot on Highway 62, you see there are no sidewalks out there except for the ones the city have put in so far, right? There's no sidewalk in front of McDonald's. Why wasn't McDonald's required to put, and I'm not trying to pick on McDonald's, I'm just using that as an example. There's no sidewalks there. So I think that should also be on the commercial application for construction, because there are still a lot of lots on 62,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
either for sale or that could be built commercial. Why aren't we asking for a sidewalk? Now, maybe the parking lot takes up, maybe they cement the whole thing and there's no need for it. I mean, you drive by like Bubba's and places like that, all that has cement there anyway, and there's enough room for them to get off the street. But I think we should have it on our commercial application as well. And certainly if there's a sidewalk on this property and there's a sidewalk on this property and you're stuck in between, you should be required to do that remaining sidewalk. But there are areas on 62 that are very dangerous when people are walking there at night,
Absolutely.
because they're walking those little grass paths that are just kind
And
of
they're
right
wearing
off
black,
the,
And it's middle of the night.
Right.
Right, oh, yeah.
Who brought this?
Yeah.
I did. That's
It
from.
says it right in there about it.
That I printed out because I thought it was very, how should I say? There was a lot of information in there that was submitted by the city. I don't know who submitted it, but this was for the Strong Towns vote.
Okay.
And that narrative is in there as
Exactly.
these are the things that we're doing to improve our community. And we mentioned sidewalks on Highway 62.
Exactly.
So I just think it should be on our commercial application
I'm
for
good with
construction.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Idaho.
I do.
Do you want to come up to the speaker?
I have to answer.
Yes.
I know there is a plan to complete the 62 sidewalks. The issue you get in with private business owners building the sidewalks on 62 is they have to have RDOT approval and RDOT qualifications. So where that one is where we had our first and only stoplight in Eureka Springs, that right there, they required the contractor to put the railing and everything there, and then you also are required to put a curb there. So that's gonna start falling on to the state highway department. So I'm unsure how that would work with a private individual getting approval from the state highway department. So that would be I would
But I'm
ask
just talking
Simon about
about,
that first before.
what I'm asking right now is just new commercial. So new commercial is going to have communication with RDOT anyway, because
They're on
if there's no,
Access.
access now anyway, they're going to have that conversation. All I'm saying is that on a new commercial construction application on 62, maybe there are other areas in town that should be requested as well. I just think on 62, if somebody's going to buy a piece of land on 62, and it has never been in its trees right now or grass right now, I think our application should say that they are required to put a sidewalk in. Maybe it's not in code, but we're able to approve commercial construction, right?
Right.
So I think it should be on there, because it's very dangerous on 62 at night.
Yeah.
So if,
Yeah.
but not for existing. I'm
No,
not involved in any of the existing.
I'm not talking about
Yeah.
existing. I'm just saying before you implement that, that would be a question for Simon, because you have no, I have no idea, and I don't know if you guys have any of that knowledge of whether a private individual can build a curb and a sidewalk on a state highway.
Well, what we've wanted to do with the different department heads is, I know we talked about before any application comes before us, that those department heads have reviewed it and looked at it. So if sidewalks is on there, they should be able to communicate back to us and say, or with the applicant and say, these are the things that you'll have to do.
Right.
Now, whether or not it gets approved or not, it would be completely out of our hands on state side.
Yeah.
It's just, if our goal is to make sure that we have safe passage on Highway 62, because we all know that there are tons of cars on it, and there's an empty piece of land, and somebody's going to build commercial on it, I think we have the right to ask for them to put a sidewalk in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with the safety or whatever. I would love sidewalks along Highway 62.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm just giving you the advice of, here's what I know and here's the hurdles that the city's had to overcome, and that's probably something that you'd want to address before requiring it on the application. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that current sidewalk that got put in, was a TAP grant that had a long history in the town. It started out in the
Right.
Parks Department. When I was there, we gave it to the city, and then basically what's interesting is if you're going to Berryville on the other side of the river, you'll notice the sidewalk on both sides of the highway going to nowhere. Well, that was the county judge deciding, without even asking the cities who could best use that sidewalk grant. And they decided that Berryville was the one, even though they didn't ask anybody. So they put that entire sidewalk in, and it's miles of sidewalk on both sides of the freeway. And the highway department did that. And unfortunately, because it went in Carroll County, we are now, we've already got so much sidewalk that we're almost last on the list to get any more sidewalk on that TAP grant. And the reason why we got the TAP grant was supposed to be for a cardio ramp over there anyway, ended up being just that little section of thing, and it was supposed to go all the way to the convention center, or the community center. But because the state blew all that money with 3 different contractors, that's where the money went. $50,000 for just that 12 yards of concrete.
I went to one of these seminars several years ago, and I forgot what town it was, and I don't know whether the dollar store or Sonic had come into town, and it was well landscaped, and I asked the planning director, how did that happen? He said, well, they had an ordinance that required that. And I said, but did the developer, it's the Sonic or what it was, complain? He says, no, they just, it's part of doing business. They look at the city ordinance, the city requires they do it. I mean, they don't, push back. So if you don't have anything, then, they might, push back. But if you have a commercial like a McDonald's or a Sonic, whatever, coming in, and you don't have an ordinance that requires anything, they're going to do as least as they can. But if it says it, they don't, PR-wise, they're not going to come up with the city council and say, oh, no, we don't want to put a sidewalk in because it costs too much money. That's just cost of doing business to them.
Right.
And they want to have good relations with the city. But if you don't have it, they're not going to volunteer with doing a lot of cases.
Right.
True. Okay.
That was just my sidewalk discussion. So
Okay.
do you all agree that we should update our applications.
That's, yeah. that'd be
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yep, I
Kyle,
do.
can we update our applications and maybe bring the updated ones so we can vote on them for the next
Great.
meeting? Then at least include that on, what was it, PUD, subdivisions, and commercial construction, new commercial construction.
Yep.
Okay. All right, let's go to code books. So Anne, you were the one that asked about code books getting updated because
Yes.
We're
and
not
I
all on the
just
same
heard
page.
Ida say they were getting ready to do it, so let's wait till she,
Right.
because once we get this done, it'll probably be 6 months, and they'll redo it, but let's give her an opportunity, and then we can get a new planning one.
Okay.
I know when Anne was here, you remember she used to, I don't know if she did it towards the end, but she would print off all the ones that were new, and then she gave us an envelope, and we just stuffed
Right.
in our booklet, so. Okay. Spring Street parking ordinance, staff update. That's you, Kyle.
Yeah, so Ann and I met with Forrest and the mayor, looking at some of the issues that were coming up with enforcement of the new Spring Street parking ordinance. So Forrest is making some adjustments as far as code goes. I've got some assignments to check out as far as conditional use permits, legal non-conforming properties, and emergency access. And so the plan is to come together with all of that information and kind of see what needs adjusted after that.
Okay, but is that all administrative, or that's not really us anymore, right?
It is not us anymore unless city council sends it back to us.
Okay,
And my hope is they do not.
okay.
So, yeah, how do you, I'm just curious, how is it being received up there after, it's been a couple, well, what, about a year now?
Was not,
So how are the locals?
has it been a year?
I think so, isn't
I
it?
guess it's almost coming up on a
Almost,
year,
yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't been able to enforce it yet. And so, yeah, there hasn't been a whole lot of feedback.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Once the first car gets towed, it's going
Right,
to be.
yeah.
It's probably going to be the time.
Okay.
Okay,
But I guess you'll just keep us up to date.
Yeah, I'll keep you
On it?
updated on it.
okay.
Attendance requirement. So it was something that came up at last meeting, I think.
Yep, it
Fergie,
did.
were you the one that
Yeah, I was just,
brought that up?
yeah, I mean, how many absences in a row? And I think we had, we lost one, I guess, where we think we lost one. Yeah, I mean, it should be, it goes down to, a while back, I guess about, I want to say 2 years ago, the city council was talking about an ethics code violation, where you, as a commissioner, us commissioners, somebody, and I guess part of that was not showing up for meetings. So I was just wondering is it, how many is it? Is it
Well-
3 or 4? Or is it just,
I brought that up to somebody on city council, and they says, you can't throw somebody off. The only thing you can do is carry them to court. And
Wow.
I said, well, why do we keep talking about it? And they said, well, evidently the CAPC tried to do that some time back and got sued.
That's in this lawsuit.
And
That's still,
so
yeah,
I mean, I don't know whether the person on city council knew what they're talking about or not, but said it's, once they're on there, they're there. And, I guess if somebody wants to make a big deal and carry them to court to get them thrown off.
yeah, because I thought you're appointed by you're appointed by the mayor and then confirmed by city council. So I would think the opposite would be possible. The city council would vote you out and the mayor would endorse that outing.
Yes, so it's actually in city code. So the mayor has the option of determining whether or not a commissioner is no longer contributing to the commission on
Active.
which they're sitting.
yeah.
And so the commission cannot remove a commissioner that has been appointed by the mayor, confirmed by city council. The committee or commission can make a recommendation to the mayor to look at a situation and make the determination if it's not benefiting the city, and the mayor can make that decision,
Okay.
make his referrals to city council, and then city council can make that decision.
So city
Okay.
council can throw somebody off.
That's the way it was explained to me, yeah.
So basically, So basically, all of that communication would have to be done at our table, and then it would be a request of it to move up the chain and determined at that point.
Yeah, so basically, the commission can ask the mayor to make that assessment. So they can't recommend removal, they can't recommend anything like that. They can just ask the mayor to make an assessment on that commissioner, as far as attendance
Okay.
and how they're contributing.
And I think the biggest concern is, if you're going to be on a commission,
You got to show up at least the meetings.
yeah, you need to, you need to come, and
Right.
because, I mean, it's a benefit for the town,
Right.
and it's being courteous, I guess, of all of the other members of that commission. So,
We've tried the Zoom thing, and so far, it doesn't look like our Zoom thing has worked as far as we're concerned on planning.
yeah, Zoom,
very
it's
good.
really difficult, so,
Yeah.
and sometimes, I mean, I probably won't be here to every meeting. I know Susan Gruning had a,
Yeah, well, there's
is
reason
gone
why you can't
this-
make a
This
meeting,
month,
yeah.
so, I mean, it's not you have to be to every single meeting.
No.
It's just that,
Yeah. Right.
if you ask to be on the commission, please come to the meetings,
Absolutely.
you
That's
know.
right.
so-
Yeah, because it's important. We got to get things moving and a lot of stuff. And if we get bogged down by, not having enough commissioners to vote on something, and it gets really kind of crazy.
Okay, thank you for
Okay.
letting us know that, Kyle.
Yes.
Meeting overview recommendation report. So this is something that I talked to Kyle about just briefly. What Kyle was doing when we had a meeting is he had a list of probably under 5 people that he would send just an overview of what we did at our meeting. So what we did tonight, what we voted on, what the vote was, and who we approved, who we didn't approve, and then some of the things that we want to talk about going forward. What I thought would be fantastic is that we would send that to city council members. So just kind of back up a little bit. Your list was going to the mayor, Kim, and a couple reporters, correct?
So I would send my email to the mayor with overview of the meeting. I would copy Kim, Ida, Jacob,
Oh, that's right.
and then one of the reporters for each, the Times Echo and Independent. And so, yeah, I think it's a great idea.
So it was a shorter list.
Yeah.
And so, when we go, so we're doing the B&B thing, right? When we go to city council and we say, these are the things that we would like to see changed on an ordinance, or this is the ordinance that we'd like to have put in place or voted on, we have to catch them up on a lot of stuff. So I thought it would be a good idea if we, on our overview, made sure that city council, all of the city council members had that, including the mayor and Jacob and everybody else that it matters to. But send that to them on a monthly basis so that they're aware of what we're talking about. If they want to go listen to the meeting, they can listen to the meeting. If they know we're putting an ordinance together, or we're trying to update our applications, or whatever it is,
Right.
they may not read it, but at least they've received it, and they can look into it a little bit more, and maybe they can ask some questions. So we're not taking so much time to bring them up to speed on, well, I didn't even know you guys were talking about that. Well, we've been talking about it for 6 months.
I think it's a great idea. I'm not sure it's going to make any difference,
I know,
but I
think
think
it's a
it's
great
a.
but I
we
think
just do it.
responsibly for planning, it
Yep.
is something that we should be doing. And I even went as far as to say, I think it's a good idea for us to even send it to HDC. I'd love to see theirs. I know you sent one of their reviews. I'd like to see theirs. We can all watch the meetings, but, maybe 75% of it isn't something that even affects us here.
Right.
But I think we should be communicating with our commissions and with our city council members just as an overview. The other thing that came up was I had another group here in town send an email about a grant opportunity. A grant opportunity which is it Safe Streets for All, Kyle? Is that what they're calling it?
Safe Streets and Roads for All.
Okay. So the question was, hey, are you guys involved in this? Have you, are there any recommendations that you could do? In this particular one, and I'm hoping that you read the same thing I did, there is an opportunity for planning, so planners, to request some grant money for projects.
Right.
Do we have any projects? You know, we've talked about sidewalks, we've talked about parking, we've talked about other things. We have the vision plan that was under planning.
Right.
I would like to be able to, when we hear about grants, to be able to put also on that recommendation list something that says, by the way, this grant is out there, and these are some of the things that we think would apply on planning side. So if Kyle could go out there and say, you know, I'd love to update the vision plan, or I'd love to be able to have a, you know, maybe $20,000 to do a study on parking or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
If we're aware of that grant, I would like for that information to also be on that monthly overview so that there is a record of asking about it or making somebody aware of it, because as of right now, I mean, when I sat on city council, Tom, I don't know how it was for you, I never saw what was being requested, and I never was asked, hey, could y'all check and see if we could qualify for this? So, and I don't know where that, I think I know where the main list is coming from, but I think, you know, as a planning commission, as an HDC commission, we should have a means of making a recommendation or asking when we see these things. Because maybe whoever is in charge of applying doesn't even know we're in need.
Right.
So.
Well, you can read the Democrat Gazette, the Northwest edition, and look at the towns, what grants they're receiving. And there's all kind, I mean, other day, some town got, I think, $7.1 million. I think we're going to, I forgot what kind of grant it was, but I saw another one that they borrowed money from the Arkansas Economic Development Commission for 0.78% to do something in the town. And I mean, every week there's, you know, some town getting money for something you never heard of before. I mean, I didn't know that Arkansas Development Commission, you know, gave away money at below 1%, you know, for towns.
Yeah.
And we still got the, you know, the one that the Democrats and Republicans, you know, together voted on. That money's still floating around out there. I mean, it's just billions of dollars. It'll be years before all that money gets implemented because a lot of it's in the design stage. But there seems like a lot of people getting money for, you know, a whole bit different reasons.
Yeah.
Just think if we're not communicating that, then.
Right. Well, like the hospital
not gonna
commission's got $5 million, and they're working on another $50 million they're trying to get. So they're you know, there's a lot of grant money out there. Like I said, for different, the CARES Act is coming on. There's so many different things, and you know, but it is a tough line in front of the governor's office or whoever to get those grants. Even if you finish the application, you got to stand in line, and so there's only so much money. And then by the time, maybe, you know, if you didn't find out about it early enough, you didn't get any.
Right.
So.
And I know, you know, Kyle is, you know, the contact or the main point person for HDC and planning. And, you know, how many times have we said, we don't have a budget. We don't have anything.
Yeah.
And we don't have a budget, but maybe we would qualify for some of these things as they come up. Probably not that often, but so anyway, that's what the meeting overview recommendation report is all about. So,
Reminder, yeah.
B&B workshops, 5 o'clock. As of right now, it's planned for 5 o'clock before our April meeting and 5 o'clock before our May meeting.
Yeah.
We've got quite a few things that we'll probably be working on
Uh-huh.
in our regular meeting as well to update code and get something over to city council. So, agenda setting.
Yeah, you can put me on there to talk about the code updates.
Okay, so we'll just leave it as B&B workshop discussion and code?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay. Sidewalk, the sidewalk applications, Kyle? Can we make sure that goes on there as well? And then, do you think you'll have an update on the code books by then?
I'm sure, yeah.
Okay, so we'll leave that on there. Are we going to, do you guys want to ask Jacob back
Sure.
for the next meeting?
Yeah, sure. I'll get an update from him. Yeah.
Okay, and then, what else?
Well, 4/9 is an interesting date because it's one day after the solar eclipse. So I'm just wondering if maybe we ought to have something on our agenda to see if, pick up the pieces, so to speak. What happened that maybe shouldn't have happened or something? I don't know. Because I was at a meeting, the reason why I bring this up, with the sheriff yesterday, and he is, the state of Arkansas emergency preparedness is all the way out the roof right now with this worry about there's going to be gas shortages, there's going to be food shortages. They're saying, I mean, everything. They're going to
After the eclipse or just in general?
No, during and right before, when
So
people
many
arrive, they're saying there's going to be all. So they're going to pull all the reserve deputies on duty. They're going to pull all the reserve firemen on duty, and any ambulance companies are going to be in standby. So,
Wow.
I mean, they're getting ready for bear. I don't know if it's almost like getting ready for a hurricane to come through Arkansas. But so I'm just saying, that's going to be an interesting day, is the day after the solar eclipse, to see if we survived, I guess.
Buy your groceries early.
Yeah, buy your groceries early, yeah.
The only other thing I had was just that thing that I did print off from Strong Towns voting.
Yeah.
Please vote if you haven't voted.
Yeah.
We're in round 2.
Right.
And then I also received another email about voting. Is it USA Today has one that's going on too?
Oh, yeah, USA's.
And you can vote every day for that one. But Strong Towns
Yeah.
is only one. Is it once, or can you vote every day on that one too?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I don't know on that one either.
I actually got on and voted several times with the same email address, and it didn't say, hey, you've already voted, so
Oh,
I don't
good to
know.
know.
But it doesn't say you can vote. The one did, but that one didn't. So I don't know if you can vote more than one time or not. I don't know. If you've got more than one email address, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So-
then they announced the award that the city got at the council meeting. We got number 1 in the, diversity, equity.
I think
and
that's true.
inclusion city of the United States. So we're the top diversity, inclusion, and city in the United States. That group in Washington State awarded us the honor, I guess. We'll get that. That's another one.
Nice.
Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items on our next agenda. So,
Is your number 5 the eclipse discussion? Or what was your number 5?
I've got Jacob, trying to get Jacob to come back, B&B workshop discussion and codes, the sidewalk applications, code book update, and then I actually had the Spring Street parking ordinance. Do you want to leave that on there too? Till you?
If I have an update, I'll bring it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Commissioner comments, Ann?
Nope, none.
Peter?
No comments.
Tom?
Somebody replaced the sidewalk across from the courthouse and did a very good job on it. I'm not sure who the property owners were, but they repaired a pretty good stretch of sidewalk along there, probably 100 feet or so, but it looks nice, and it really helps downtown.
That's right. And I agree with Tom. That's exactly right. Things are happening on the sidewalks, but maybe not as fast as we want them to. So that's all I've got.
Kyle, do you have anything?
Thank you, everybody, for volunteering.
All right, I don't have anything, so
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion to adjourn in a second has been given. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.
All right.